that. Let's do one, Roger Stone, with Andrew Mitchell yesterday. He was having more technical difficulties than we are. Let's see.
Look, I don't think there is any evidence whatsoever of Russian collusion or conspiracy or coordination, not with the Trump campaign or with Donald Trump or his associates. So now he appears to be looking at other matters. Since two Justice Departments, both Republican and Democrat, have ruled that a sitting president cannot be indicted, then the only purpose of this inquiry has to be removing Donald Trump from office.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
indeed.
All right. Malcolm, I think we have
Hunt
you.
that witch.
Good morning, Malcolm Nance.
Good morning. Why did you make me have to listen to that?
I'm sorry. I was filling time. Yeah, let's talk first of all about the big bombshell with obviously Michael Avenatti last night. This is the biggest sort of collusion bomb yet, isn't it?
Good God. You know, what did this last night teach us? I went to bed after Rachel Maddow. Don't go to bed after Rachel Maddow.
Exactly.
DVR, baby.
I go to bed, it's a $700,000 slush fund. I wake up, it's a $4.4 million slush fund.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you know, I was just discussing this on radio this morning. What we are finding out here is a completely different avenue of approach for the Mueller campaign. And I've said this from the very beginning. When it's a counterintelligence investigation, they go after your money. They start cleaning your tail, as we call it, to make sure that you aren't receiving illicit funds. Michael Cohen, it appears, is the conduit for illicit funds, not just with Russian oligarchs, but and not just for porn stars. This may have been a bribery machine. This may have been a place where funds, in order to influence Donald Trump, and as Joe Scarborough said this morning, he knows Donald Trump personally, and there is no way Donald Trump would allow Cohen to make this much money off of that without taking a cut. I am really just flabbergasted.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a lot to absorb, isn't it? And by the way, so this Russian oligarch, obviously Adam Schiff was saying, they knew about him for the House Intelligence Committee, and of course Devin Nunes would not allow them, right, to talk to him. We know Mueller has talked to him. And once again, we learn how complicit this entire party is. There's this other story this morning. Trump sided with the DOJ to protect the identity of a source providing info to Mueller from Nunes's document request. I mean, this is hard to take all this in, isn't it? How complicit or involved in this other party is.
I've been saying this for some time now, that Nunes, even though he has some protections under the House, he may, in fact, end up being the target of this investigation if he actually used his official government role to deliberately obstruct justice and attempt to dismantle an investigation that started with hunting for foreign spies. I just don't understand why the rest of the party has decided that they would choose party over nation and put a stop to this. But in good news, I really think that as we learn more about the Michael Cohen money, if this turns out to be a very, very clear, slush fund in terms of influence, get the president's attention, which is also known as bribery, I think they will run. It's the one thing that you really cannot countenance, that an average person can understand, that you took money in the millions of dollars to pay off porn stars, to cover up what may potentially be, who knows, illegitimate children, or to cavort with Playboy bunnies and Russian oligarchs for the Kremlin.
Yeah, Malcolm. First of all, how do you think Avenatti got this information? I mean, it's and obviously, as you implied, Mueller knows this. They've obviously interviewed this same Russian oligarch, right?
Yeah, well, Mueller has known all about this because he's the one who's scrubbing the money, right? He's the person, him and his teams, and passing some of the effort off to the Southern District of New York. They are scrubbing the resources here. So he and his crack team of financial fraud specialists have all clearly identified the pathways of money and the amounts of money involved here. Someone mentioned this last night. They asked about how did Avenatti get it. Avenatti's pretty popular right now. Even you want a piece of him. And so, there are people out there who are willing to take the risks and make sure that the right information goes to the right mouthpiece. So this isn't something like it's coming. I heard somebody speculate this morning. Perhaps the Trump team is throwing it out because there's far worse and they want to burn Michael Cohen. This is the sort of thing that will send Michael Cohen to prison for the rest of his life. And, there's that new New York Mag article where he was essentially saying, I can't believe my family's being put through this.
Yeah.
He's the one putting his family through this. And he's putting an entire nation through it as well.
Yeah. And obviously, I feel like, Malcolm, this news, I'm sure, was as terrifying to you, this pulling out of the Iran deal, but it is hard to see anything not through the lens of Trump-Russia, isn't it? I mean, this is what you and I have talked about for so long, about him starting a war to distract from this. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not sure that it's more of a wag the dog than it's when he went to Saudi Arabia. This is more of a Trump-Saudi story, which has Russian components to it. When he went to Saudi Arabia, this is the guy who was essentially calling every Muslim on the world, a terrorist. And then he went into this lavish world of solid gold and luxury and opulent food and was just seduced by it. But also, the amount of money that we're talking about over there are insane. When I lived there, I lived in the United Arab Emirates and I worked in Saudi Arabia. It was just, they abuse money. They just don't understand the real value of it. So when Trump got into that land, it was like he landed into a pile of Russian oligarchs who were all from Saudi Arabia. And this possibly with now the price of oil going up today,
Yep.
it's skyrocketed in Europe. This is a completely different front, which has Jared Kushner's fingerprints all over.
Oy.
So of course Trump was going to do this for Bibi Netanyahu, do this for possibly his new buddy, King Salman or Prince Salman, and
For Putin.
now to look strong against the Iranians. But it's
Yeah.
really about oil money, I'm certain.
Yeah, and it's what Putin wants, right?
Oh, yeah, Putin makes boatloads of money out of this because this now pushes the oil price dramatically higher. It may even push it back to $100 a barrel if there are confrontations in the Arabian Gulf. And that, of course, makes everybody rich, including American oil producers. Energy is the lifeblood of, geopolitics in the 20th, 21st century.
Yeah.
So there has to be a factor there. But more importantly, if there's anything we've learned about Donald Trump, there has to be a personal factor involved in, and that usually involves giant money bags that he swims through.
Yeah. I mean, and Malcolm, it seems like, again, there's so many bombshells per almost minute these days. The one that, that you and I have talked about, and then, them confirming that they hacked into voting machine, they were able to hack into voter rolls and, knock people off the voter rolls. Yeah,
we've been talking about this for 21 months.
Yeah.
I wrote about it in my book that when they were surveying, Russian intelligence were surveying the voting rolls of states like Florida and Arizona and Illinois and Michigan. And they were saying, well, they weren't hacking into anything. They were looking at the voter registration rolls. Well, one of the simplest things you can do is deregister people or change their address so that there's a violation.
Yeah.
And that you can just get rid of people by the thousands. This itself requires that we need to go back and do a survey, and an audit of everyone's registration. This is a national security priority.
Thank you.
Now the Senate Intelligence Committee has just put out a preliminary report about this. Interesting little side note. About a year and a half ago, the Secretary of State of Florida, a hardcore Trump supporter, actually wrote an email to me saying that what I was saying about the state of Florida, that had their subcontractors had been hacked, that their voter rolls had been surveyed, was a lie, and that she was going to go out to my employers and tell them that I was spouting falsehoods on television. Yeah, truth in 3, 2, 1. That story came out a year ago, that Florida itself and their subcontractors were broken into by the Russians.
Yeah. I'm sure you saw this story. Russian hackers posed as ISIS to threaten U.S. soldiers' families.
Well, a year ago, I released a book with my co-author, Chris Sampson, called Hacking ISIS. I have an entire section of my book devoted to that story, how they had hacked into TV France 5, the German Bundestag, the Polish Stock Exchange, and had been harassing U.S. service members and their wives by posing to be ISIS.
Yeah.
Wrote a whole book around it. It's just amazing. But, you know, another thing that, you know, I'll have people attack me for by saying that none of this is true, and that's just the crazy libtard media.
Yeah, right. So let's talk. Obviously, Mueller has rejected Trump's request to answer questions in writing. Nice try. But, I mean, you must have just been watching this whole Giuliani thing. I mean, it is just... It's hard to tell where this is going, isn't it? I mean, I feel like they're putting Mueller off, right? They're going to say, oh, no, not before North Korea. Like, now that's more important. I mean, and isn't it true that Mueller can't complete his investigation until he interviews him, correct? I mean, that's what he has said.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think Giuliani is literally just another buffoon that's been brought in because Donald Trump likes the way he talks at people. He's an older, more senile Scaramucci, right? And he's been in office, 2 Scaramuccis. So I think that Giuliani himself thinks that he can bully these people. But I got to tell you, I was ashamed for him yesterday. The way he spoke about Jim Comey being a pathological liar, it was the greatest form of projection that I had ever seen. It was disgraceful. The way he cut down the FBI, cut down Comey, who he knew personally, and claimed that his position at the U.S. Attorney's Office is the way that he knew that Jim Comey was a liar. Jim Comey's a lot of things. He's a tall guy. He's got bigger hands than Trump, but he is not a liar. And he is obviously serving for the nation. And Giuliani has decided the nation's interests no longer matter to him. His personal fealty to Donald Trump supersede any loyalty to his oath that he had taken in the past. Disgraceful.
Yep. What is up with Roger Stone? What, right? I mean, well,
who knows? Who knows what's up with Roger Stone? You know, one of these days we're going to wake up and some people are going to be indicted. If it's one of them is Roger Stone for lying to a federal officer who he claims he still hasn't been interviewed, then I will not be surprised at all. I met him last year at Politicon. He is just as slippery and slimy in person as he is, on television. And this is a guy who thinks he's a master of the universe. But the worst thing that can happen to Roger Stone is that he is caught admitting that he didn't know about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
That he wasn't the inside player.
Yeah. Boy, I swear to God, Malcolm, yesterday was like, between the voter rolls and, the Trump-Russia bombshell and the Iran deal, I have this sick feeling in my stomach, that I hope this wholly illegitimate president is removed before he starts World War III.
Let me tell you, I tweeted, no more breaking news. That was at 4 o'clock. I didn't even get to 10 p.m. There are stories just exploding left and right.
Yeah.
And I look, put on MSNBC, sit your dog down in front of it. When your dog barks, then you run in and see what's
All right. Malcolm, love you. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you next week. All right. Bye-bye.
The breaking news bark.
50.